This is CBC Winnipeg News.
It's just money out of Canada's pocket. I would like to keep that money at home.
Well, from farmers to construction to shipping, Manitobans brace for impact after more than 9,000 rail workers were locked out by their employers overnight. Their union and Canada's two largest railways now forced into binding arbitration. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll have local reaction to that shutdown just ahead. But first, we have more on Ottawa's move to intervene and get goods moving by rail once again. This after negotiations broke off at midnight between CN, CP Kansas City, and the Teamsters Union. The Minister of Labour says the shutdown cannot be allowed to drag on.
Under Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code, I've directed the Canada Industrial Relations Board to assist the parties in settling the outstanding terms of their collective agreements by imposing final binding arbitration.
Binding arbitration means a third party reviews the arguments and proposes a solution. Minister McKinnon also says he ordered the Industrial Board to extend the term of the current agreements until new agreements have been signed. He says he expects operations on both railways to resume within days. Some Manitoba businesses scrambled to deal with the fallout as that shutdown got underway early this morning. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
This lumber distribution centre in the St. Boniface Industrial Park is well stocked, and businesses hope it'll stay this way now that the federal labour minister has imposed binding arbitration and extended collective agreements between CN Rail and CPKC and their employees. Canada's two main railways locked out more than 9,000 workers. Joel Hartung owns the Lumber Zone, which has 3 locations in Manitoba. He was worried about the impact.
Lumber is one thing that is shipped a lot by rail. Shingles, rebar, tubs and showers, and then flooring is another one.
Liz Kovach is with the Western Retail Lumber Association, which represents retailers, manufacturers, and distributors. She says contingency plans were being put in place before the work stoppage.
So distributors were already starting to look at other ways for them to bring products up to Canada through the U.S. It will create some delays, but at least we're going to be able to get some of those products.
Chuck Davidson with the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce says it was important for the federal government to get involved early.
It's not as simple as putting it on a plane or putting it on a truck. That's not an option. The options for a lot of businesses right now are zero. The only option that they have is we need to get those trains running again.
Farmers were concerned they wouldn't be able to get their crops to market on the railway, and fertilizer companies say some shipments stopped in the lead up to the lockout.
We start to see these bottlenecks now within the system that can affect the timing for fertilizer being available for the fall season.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew contacted the federal government with concern about the impact.
When we look at our provincial economy, agriculture is the backbone, directly, but also the value-added manufacturing sector.
It's unclear exactly when trains will start rolling again, but Ottawa wants operations to resume as quickly as possible. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And there could be yet more trouble on the transportation front. This after Air Canada pilots voted to authorize a strike. About 98% of the members who have cast a ballot have approved a walkout, if necessary, to win a new contract with Air Canada. The 5,000 members of the Airline Pilots Association have been pushing for greater wage parity with their American counterparts. Air Canada pilots could be in a legal strike position as early as September the 17th. Well, there's renewed conversation about domestic violence in our province. It is in response to a triple homicide near McCreary, where a man killed 3 members of his estranged partner's family in what the RCMP call a horrible act of intimate partner violence. The CBC's Mike Arsenault has more on calls to improve Manitoba's response to domestic violence.
The protection order filed against Marlon Glover should have kept his estranged partner safe, but it didn't. Last week, Glover killed his estranged partner's parents and brother before taking his own life. The Manitoba Association for Women's Shelter says protection orders aren't always effective for people fleeing violence.
It is a piece of paper that unfortunately does not always stop violence because it's only as good if enforced. And law enforcement can't always enforce them for various reasons. including limited resources.
Soongai Movinji Van Landegam says sometimes a protection order can make domestic abuse worse because abusers don't want to lose control over their victims.
We've had women tell us that they plan to go into hiding when the protection order is issued, as they know there will be backlash. So these need to be taken a lot more seriously in the enforcement behind it if these are the only tools being used.
Van Landegam says there's a lack of safe spaces and shelters in Manitoba, especially in rural and remote communities where women are even more vulnerable, even if a protection order is in place. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says their government's working to create more 24-hour safe spaces for women in the province.
We're looking at Brandon and Thompson as the first two outside of the city of Winnipeg. And then I think Dauphin, actually, which is not too far from McCreary, is probably the next location after that.
Minister of Families, Nahani Fontaine, says the blueprint for women's shelters in Manitoba was laid out in the 80s and needs an update.
I will be hosting a roundtable. So I'll be bringing all of the shelters and resource centers together to spend a day together to look at where we need to go.
Fontaine says she's working with the Justice Department to strengthen protection orders. Van Landegam says they don't always provide comfort to the survivors and can be hard to get.
Many women actually just give up.
Got it.
And then there's the thought, well, even if I get it, if it's not going to do anything, why bother?
Van Landegam says more enforcement of protection orders is needed to keep families and survivors safe. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The provincial government says money should never be a barrier in accessing reproductive health. It is becoming the second province in Canada now to make prescription birth control free. As of October 1st, Manitoba will cover the cost of 60 commonly used birth control methods, from the pill to IUDs to hormone injections. It'll cost the province around $11 million annually. Family physician Dr. Jacqueline Goujon is thrilled her patients can choose the best birth control for them.
I am beyond grateful that going forward, I will no longer need to make treatment decisions related to contraception for my patients based on their finances rather than their clinical benefit and need.
Women's Health Clinic Executive Director Kemlyn Nehmard is pleased as well, but she says she'd like to see the program expanded.
The morning after pill can be really cost prohibitive for some people, and condoms, quite frankly, are, they're between like 80 and 99% effective, and they're also a barrier form, right? So they actually help protect against STDs. But other than that, predominantly, I think, we're overjoyed.
Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says the government is looking into making the morning after pill more accessible. Ottawa is severely restricting the sale of nicotine pouches. They were previously approved by Health Canada as a way to help smokers kick the habit, but there are concerns about their use by young people. The sale of nicotine pouches will be banned in convenience stores and gas stations. Fruity flavors are being taken off the market as well. Only mint will be available from behind a pharmacy counter. A group of Winnipeg cyclists wants to slow their roll without stopping. It's called the Idaho Stop, and cyclists here say it makes them safer, even though it's against the law in Manitoba. The CBC's Cameron McLean joins us live from Wolseley. That is where a rally is getting underway. Cameron, what do cyclists gather there want changed?
I'm at the corner of Westminster and Walnut, where a group of about 65 cyclists are riding around streets here in the neighborhood, following the letter of the law. That means they're riding single file and coming to a complete stop when they come to stop signs. They say this isn't how they normally ride. The point is to show what happens when cyclists are treated the same as vehicles. And we've already seen a fair bit of confusion from some drivers here today. I caught up with one of the organizers yesterday to learn more about the Idaho Stop. When Hillary Rosentreader rides up to a stop sign, she slows down, checks for traffic, and then she goes. That's the Idaho Stop, which treats stop signs like yield signs, only requiring a complete stop if there is oncoming traffic. And right now, it's illegal.
The problem with this safety measure not being legal is that you're essentially criminalizing safety.
Under Manitoba law, cyclists must come to a complete stop before going through a stop sign. But Rosentreader says that causes them to lose momentum.
What it means is you'll see cyclists spending more time in intersections, which is actually extending the time that they could potentially be hit by a driver.
The Idaho stop is named after the U.S. state that legalized it in 1982. A 2010 study from the University of California found cycling injuries dropped by 14%. One cycling safety instructor and former police officer says he uses the Idaho stop himself, but doesn't support making it legal.
They've gone from crawling to going through, blowing through, and some just don't even slow down.
Rosentreter wants the province to change the Highway Traffic Act to make the Idaho stop legal. Premier Wab Kinew says he just learned about it, but he's skeptical.
And I do worry about the impact on pedestrians, other cyclists, vehicles. I just think that, we have stop signs there for a reason.
Rally organizers say they're glad they've introduced the idea of the Idaho stop to political leaders, and they emphasize that cyclists will still follow right-of-way for pedestrians and cyclists. Riley?
Thank you, Cameron. That's CBC's Cameron McLean live for us in Wolseley this evening. Now, the Winnipeg Jets have traded the rights to American winger Rutger McGroarty. This ends an impasse between the hockey club and its first-round draft pick from 2022. 20-year-old McGroarty chose not to sign a contract with Winnipeg. He was prepared to return to college hockey this coming season. The Jets, though, shipped him off to Pittsburgh in exchange for Saskatoon-born centre Braden Yager.
I talked to him, like I say, he was pretty excited. Again, a kid from the prairies to get to play for a prairie team, I think is something that, he was pretty proud of.
Both McGroarty and Yager were selected 14th overall in their respective draft years. That leads us to a look at our weather forecast. Hard to think about hockey already when we're seeing weather and temperatures like we have been, albeit a bit wet this morning in parts of southern Manitoba. Let's start with a look at our daytime highs from today, reaching 26 in Winnipeg this afternoon, as well as in the Morden-Winkler region. 27s in Dauphin and Brandon, where we have seen a lot more sunshine throughout the day today. 29 in Swan River, and 19 in Thompson, where we have seen those showers and thunderstorms that move through southern Manitoba move further to the north as the day has progressed today. So we still have an air quality statement in place for Flin Flon, Lynn Lake, Thompson, Norway, not for Norway House anymore, but for the God's Lake region in northeastern Manitoba, still dealing with wildfire smoke in the region, and expect that to persist through the coming days. So looking at satellite and radar, we have cleared out nicely throughout the afternoon, back to a mainly sunny evening here in Winnipeg, but you can see that cloud in northern Manitoba, particularly around Thompson through the Island Lake region and Shamattawa. That is some showers and some thunder showers that have been moving through the region, the remnants of what moved through the Red River Valley and parts of southern Manitoba earlier in the day today, and some of the remnants of that off into northwestern Ontario still in the Red Lake and north of the Dryden region into the evening hours here. So that pushes out as we get into the evening hours tonight. We start Friday mainly sunny for most of Manitoba. Northwestern Ontario, you're still stuck in the cloud cover a little bit as we start the day at least, and then we clear out and we wrap up the week under a mainly sunny sky for just about all of us in Manitoba. A bit of cloud hanging around in the Thompson and northeastern part of Manitoba. Saturday, mainly sunny skies as well. A bit of cloud starts to move in. Our best chance of some showers, though, comes as we get into Sunday, as you can see here in southern Manitoba. I don't think the rain will be as ominous as it depicts on the futurecast there, but there's a chance we could see some scattered showers as we head through Sunday. Tonight, looking at a low of 17 in Winnipeg, 12s and 14s through western Manitoba, and some continued showers in parts of the north, up to the high 20s tomorrow, 30 in fact for Morden-Winkler, 22 in Thompson, 29 for the Brandon region tomorrow, and we are at 30 for Winnipeg both Saturday and Sunday. Chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms for Sunday in Winnipeg, breezy conditions persist, and Monday we're at a partly cloudy 25 degrees, and we're staying at temperatures like that as we head through the rest of next week. I'll have those details coming up a little bit later on. But turning to the war between Israel and Hamas now, hospital officials in northern Gaza say an Israeli strike has killed 12 people, including women and children. They say among the dead are 6 children and 2 women. The director of the hospital says the strike hit a house and there were no survivors. Gaza Civil Defense says they have recovered several bodies from that home. The Israeli military said it is looking into the incident. Italian officials say UK tech billionaire Mike Lynch is among the 6 people now confirmed to have died when a super yacht sank off of the coast of Sicily earlier this week. Lynch's body was recovered yesterday and his identity was released today. His 18-year-old daughter Hannah is still listed as missing, though. Lynch's wife was rescued along with 14 other people. 4 other bodies were found yesterday. The body of the boat's chef, who grew up in Calgary, was recovered just hours after the yacht sank on Monday. Still to come tonight, it's called the Death Tour, a grueling trip to some remote northern Manitoba communities, and it is something you have to do if you want to make it as a professional wrestler. It's the topic of a new documentary featuring legend Chris Jericho. We'll hear more from him after the break. Stay with us. Well, it's called the Death Tour. It's a grueling trip that takes wrestlers to remote northern Manitoba communities where they test their strength and grit. It's a chance to prove themselves on their way to becoming a professional wrestler, but it can also come with a cost that can test a person's heart. Winnipegger and wrestling legend Chris Jericho sat down with CBC's Jim Agapito to talk about his new documentary that comes out on CBC Gem tomorrow.
I need action. I'm a professional. All right. Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you, man.
All right.
Thank you for this.
Well, thank you for doing this. It's going to be awesome.
The pleasure's all yours. Come on. You're going with that old standard, that old chestnut?
Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today. Now, I got to ask, the Death Tour, it's something that you've taken a part in. You know, what's that like?
So if you're on the Canadian independent wrestling scene, which is where we all start, there's something, it's a legendary kind of tale called the Death Tour. It's a wrestling tour that goes in northern Manitoba in the wintertime. And the reason why it's called the Death Tour is it's very hard to get to all of these indigenous communities in northern Manitoba that we go to. So you're talking about driving over a frozen lake for 13 hours, and then you got a one-way road. If a tree falls, then you're stuck for hours on end. It's very grueling, but it's also a rite of passage. And then you get to the community, the reservation, and then you set up the ring, and then you wrestle the show, and then you take the ring down, and then you get your sleeping bag, and you go sleep on the floor of a gym, of basically a high school gym. And it's minus 30 outside, and there's not a lot of heat in there. And then if you want to get something to eat, you buy a peanut butter sandwich for, $30 at the store at the Hudson Bay, because that's what it costs up there. So it's one of those things, like, you want to do it, but then once you start doing it, you're like, this is crazy. Like, why am I doing this? You're doing it for the experience. You're doing it for the chance to learn. And for the hundreds of people that have been on the Death Tour, quite a few of them have become world champions. Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Edge, Christian, Luther, Don Callis, Rhino. I mean, there's so many of kind of the local guys that have gone on these tours and have become main event stars.
If you want to be a wrestler, the Death Tour is a definite way to prove to yourself and to others that you have what it takes.
This is one thing that I really enjoyed as we were filming this, is, you get a chance to be the main event, WrestleMania all-in star that you always envision yourself to be. And if you're in the crowd watching, and this is where the movie got a lot deeper for me, it gives you a chance to see the WrestleMania all-in for your particular community. Nobody's going up there. There's nothing up in these areas. When you get a chance to see the wrestling show, the Tony Candelo Tour, if it's once a year, that gives you something to believe in, both in the ring and out of the ring watching. And that's what I really started realizing about this film. It's so much more than just fun wrestling stories. It's a way of life to give people something to believe in. You can see just the relationship that the guys and girls in the ring have with the guys and girls watching. You see in the movie, I'm looking at the picture of the matriarch right now here. She's Indigenous, and she goes up there, and they're mobbed at the end of the shows. These kids just going crazy. You're our hero. You win for us. We love you. Like, these kids will never forget the time they went to the wrestling show in their town of Bloodvein or Peguis or whatever it is, and got to see, like, they might never remember her name, but they got to see the lady who was the wrestler that was one of us. We can do this too. This gives them some positivity.
The biggest takeaways you want the audience to get from watching this film. What is it, the heart of it, that you want people to understand about this tour?
It's not just for wrestling fans or just for First Nation or just for Manitobans. It's for anybody that likes a good story that involves all these different elements, but basically boils down to just dreams. And can you make them come true? I don't care what level it is. In this movie, we see people make their dreams come true, and that's the most important thing.
It's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Because if you didn't enjoy it, I'd take you around back in the workshop.
Once again, you can stream the Death Tour starting tomorrow on CBC Gem. Well, we cleared out nicely to a mainly sunny evening after that rain this morning. We'll have a look at your 7-day forecast and, of course, your dog walking forecast. When we come back, stay with us. All right, time for your dog walking forecast for your Friday, and we're looking at mainly sunny skies as we head into the morning tomorrow. 18 degrees, south winds at 10. Here is a trio of friends, Honey, Bowie, and Finley, who Michelle says are best friends. Thank you for this picture. You can keep sending yours to talkback@cbc.ca. Up to 28 in the afternoon tomorrow, 26 by the evening. So we're looking at another warm one tomorrow, especially with the humidity in the coming days. Hot and humid for Saturday and Sunday. 30-degree temperatures with a chance of showers. Maybe a thunderstorm on Sunday, and then we're 25 to 27 degrees next week with another chance of thunderstorms and some showers Wednesday and Thursday. Well, if you want to learn how to ski, you don't have to wait for the winter weather. We hit the slopes in August for tonight's Daily Lift. This is not a mountain. This is the snow zone. It's a ski hill near Madrid that is inside of a shopping mall. Snow bunnies trade their flip-flops for ski wear to beat the summer heat indoors. Doesn't it look realistic? Just look at this. It's usually a balmy -3 on the hill here as the mercury in Madrid pushes the mid to high 30s outdoors. The 250-meter-long ski slope is covered in artificial snow, and it is open year-round, by the way. So you don't have to go out in -30 weather. You just have to go to Madrid. So that reminds me of the skateboard park that we have in Portage Place, which is also very cool. We just need a water feature here. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.